And good evening. It feels good to be back. I was on the road last week, couldn't be here, but I am here now, ready to rock and roll with my boys. We're going to dive into some overvalued and undervalued dynasty players in the NFC West. We, of course, will be using the Fantasy Pros Dynasty ECR. Feel free to follow along with us at fantasypros.com/NFL/rankings/dynasty overall. Aidan Weingartner is here. Justin Taylor is back from an international vacation that we'll get the scoop on that in just a minute. My name is Kyle Zeigler, and if you're watching with us on YouTube and you want to support our content, the best thing you could do is like this video and then subscribe to the Fantasy in Frames YouTube channel. Catch anytime a new podcast or short drops from us. Also, make sure to head over to fantasyinframes.com for all of our rankings. We've got Dynasty, Redraft, IDP, rookie rankings as well. Article content always dropping here at Fantasy in Frames. We even have premium IDP and offense content for those interested for $4.99 a month. Follow us on our social media channels as well. Just search Fantasy in Frames. Like I said, JT is here. He's had a couple of weeks off, I think. So, JT, where'd you go? What'd you do, man? And how was the trip?
I was good, man. Went to Ireland. Had a great time. Never been to Europe before. So had a good time there. Kind of went all over the place. Hit up Dublin, hit up Belfast, hit up the Giants Causeway up on the north coast. It was a great time, man. Had a lot of fun. Just got back in time to do Scott Fish Bowl live in Madison. So basically flew in, went right to that. And then I've only been home for like a day and a half. So it's been a little crazy. I'm getting back into things. So I'll be on all the podcasts tonight, helping everybody out. And then, I'll see all the people at the Fantasy Expo this weekend. So headed back out to go to that.
Yeah, JT is pulling a triple, boys. He is doing all the shows. The 8 o'clock, the 9 o'clock, the 10 o'clock with us tonight at 10 o'clock on the Fourth and Frames. But we're going to go from Ireland now to Rochester, New York. Oh, that is a big change. Aidan, what's been going on with you, man? What's going on, Aidan? Can you hear us?
Yeah, that's not as exciting, but I've been good lately. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. I've been good lately. Obviously not as exciting as Ireland here with JT, but I'm excited to finally finish up the series tonight with the NFC West. One, so I don't have to mess up my compass instructions anymore for you guys to make fun of me. And two, so we can finally have a full picture of all these divisions going into the season in terms of true dynasty value, according to us, of course.
Yeah, that's right, Aidan. This is our we're wrapping up the series. I forgot to mention that earlier, that this is the end of the road for us. We are finishing up the compass in the NFC West for our undervalued and overvalued players. Next week, we're thinking we're going to do a rookie mock draft, so stick around for that. We'll get that started for you next week. But we got a lot of news and notes to get to, so let's just dive right on into the news and notes. All right, guys, training camp has arrived. With the Panthers and the Cardinals, they are set to play in the Hall of Fame game August the 6th. So get ready for some news, guys. It's going to start rolling through starting today and beyond. All teams will have reported by July 28th. But, guys, there have been 21 offensive coordinator changes this offseason. Which change in the offense excites you the most going forward for Dynasty? For me, it's Mike McDaniel and those LA Chargers, man. I know it's shocking. I've been liking these Chargers all summer long. I'm just really excited about everybody. I mean, the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, even Trey Harris. For Dynasty, I am just over the moon with this Chargers offense with Mike McDaniel. I don't know how long it's going to last, because he's Mike McDaniel. It may only be a year or two, but nonetheless, man, if he can just recharge these Chargers, no pun intended, I'm excited about their future with the Chargers. How about you, JT? Which offense is really exciting you for 2026 and beyond?
I gotta agree with you. Love the Chargers take. I just find myself getting Chargers players everywhere I possibly can this year in every charity league, every redraft league, trying to trade for them in Dynasty. I just did a dispersal where I grabbed a bunch of Chargers. So I like the Chargers big time. I think the Bears with Ben Johnson, another year under the helm, everybody learning the system, adding in some new players. You got a second year of Luther Burden, a second year of Colston Loveland. I think this team, another year of Roma Dunze. These guys are starting to come together. They finally fixed the offensive line last year, moved some guys on defense, mostly older players, and got some younger guys. So I think this is going to be exciting offense for the Bears. We're used to just hardcore defense, trying to win close games, but this team feels like it has a shot to put up a lot of points this year, especially if they can do it early in the season before the weather gets real bad. But Caleb Williams, I mean, we've talked about, if you know Bears fans like I do, all my friends are, we're talking about, can anybody ever throw for 4,000 yards for the Bears? Caleb Williams was almost there last year. I mean, he was right there. He just missed, I think it was like 50 or 60 yards total. Did he miss the 4,000 yard mark? So I just really think this Bears offense is an offense that's going to be exciting. And we just haven't talked about that in any way for a while since the original Justin Fields hype. We haven't talked about a Chicago Bears offense being really good for a while. The hope was there last year, I would say, the hopium, but we actually saw it starting to come true. I think this offense is going to cook this year, and I'm excited to see what they can do. Yeah,
JT, it's funny. I think the Chargers and the Bears, they kind of resemble each other. They've got the same kind of pieces. The only thing they're missing is they don't maybe have a good of a tight end as Colston Loveland, but Aranda Gadsden's coming. Me and you both love him. He's on the up and swing. And Boss Man's in the chat room tonight, and he's thinks that Aidan's been hitting the weights. I think it's the angle, Boss. It's that angle with Aidan's camera makes him look like that he's a linebacker, and he just froze for some reason. So I was gonna go throw it to Aidan to see for his offensive changes.
Give him a second. Yeah, I was gonna say I know the boss isn't talking about me when he said hitting the weights. I said hitting the pints. Yeah, I've been on the pints here the last couple of weeks. A lot of Guinness going down, but yeah.
Speaking of the Guinness or the beer in Ireland, it's not cold, right? It's lukewarm.
So it just depends on where you go, because they call it real ale in Europe, and real ale is room temperature. So they have realized that too many people are not used to that. So now if you go into a lot of bars, like most bars will have stuff on tap that is actually chilled. The Guinness is usually chilled. They'll have the Pilsners, some other stuff chilled. Then you can still get the natural real ale. It's just, I think a lot of people have realized, like, oh, so many people are not used to drinking that. That's not all anyone serves. You always can get it if you ask for it, but yeah, they definitely have stuff cold. No AC anywhere though, so just always keep that in mind. No air conditioning anywhere, which usually isn't a problem because it's usually not that warm over there. But we were there during the hot streak. It was, people were losing their mind. They're like, it's never been this hot ever. They do not see 80 a lot in Ireland. I can tell you that. So they felt like they were melting, and we're like, it's a little warm, but it's not that bad. And everybody else was like, this is all brutal. And the other thing is, because they're always trying to keep it warm, not a lot of fans. And you'd think of like, okay, you don't have air conditioning, you just have a lot of fans. No. Like, I hardly saw any ceiling fans, like no plug-in fans. I'm like, man, nobody's got fans over here. So at least their electric bill is probably a whole lot lower than everyone here in America.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, well, maybe they're just cost effective there in Ireland. I'll move on now until maybe Aidan gets back. He's got some technical difficulties, but JT and I, we're going to just roll right through. And JT, in honor of the Fantasy Football Expo happening this weekend, July 24th through the 26th in Canton, Ohio, which we are both excited for that. Why not? Let's talk about the quarterback battle in Cleveland between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. For dynasty purposes, JT, who you got in a super flex? Are you going with Sanders because he's younger? Are you going with Watson? And do you plant your flag on just one, or do you take both to kind of handcuff it? What are you doing?
Yeah, if you're in a startup and you're waiting, you're probably going to try to get both those guys if you're taking them late. I think at this point, I'm completely out on Deshaun Watson. I think I have him on like maybe 1 out of 65 teams. I've got him in one league, and that was a league I took over. He has not been good in 4 or 5 years. Now, we can make every excuse in the world, suspensions, injuries, whatever else, but it still doesn't change the fact that he hasn't been good in like 5 years. So, like, if all of a sudden we think he's going to step into a Browns team that we've seen absolutely struggle, and we're going to get, 2019 Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson? Like, is that guy going to come out of nowhere? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think those days are long gone. If I'm the Browns at this point, I'm playing Shedeur Sanders this whole year, seeing if he shows me anything. I'm a Shedeur guy. I thought he got absolutely ripped in the draft, dropping as low as he did. That was a whole sham by the NFL. But I actually like Shedeur. The one spot I didn't want him to go to was the Browns. I told everybody, I'd rather him go somewhere and back somebody up for a couple years than go to the Browns, because I was like, they're just going to ruin him in any shot of him having a long career. At this point, I'd rather see Shedeur. He's been going pretty late as far as like starting quarterbacks, him and Watson, because of the, everybody's not sure what's going on. He's been falling in drafts, so you've been able to get him a little later. If I'm the Browns, I want to go with Sanders, because if he just falters and just doesn't make any strides this year, you know what they're going to do, right? They're going right back to the draft and drafting somebody again. So I would rather go with the young guy, see if I can save myself the draft pick, because in all honesty, if he's even reasonably decent, they have a ton of other holes to fill. It'd be nice to start filling some of those other holes and then see if he gets better. And if he doesn't, then you draft another QB in a year or two. But if I was them, I'd be completely out on Deshaun Watson. I'm just shocked they're even holding him. The money is got to be the only reason that they still are considering this. But I just, in good conscience, I can't take Deshaun Watson in any league. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You said it. It's the money with Deshaun Watson. That's the only reason why he's still there. And I feel like the Browns want it to be Sanders, but then, the paycheck's going to Watson. So it's like, what do they do? They're kind of stuck. It's almost better just to let Watson eat the money and let him go and just restart with Shedeur Sanders or whoever, and like you said, man, last year, I thought he looked okay. Like as a rookie, 5th rounder, whatever he was, he looked all right. Right. I mean,
I know he got ripped a lot. Now, a lot of people ripped him, but if you went back and watched a lot of his games, he actually played pretty decent with how bad that offense was. He actually had some decent games in there. But again, it's like anything else. When people go into an eye for something and they're like, hey, we want to hate this guy, any little thing he does that's bad, they're just going to blow it up. But then if you have a guy, you're like, oh, we really want to like this guy and want him to do well. If he does anything even remotely good, everyone's like, oh, but did you see that one pass down the sideline? So it's, again, people can pick and choose when they want to, praise a guy or not on that type of thing. But I think you go Shedeur another year. I thought he played pretty well, given the circumstances, being a 5th-round pick, all the hate he got. I mean, here's the thing is, we're not even talking about Dylan Gabriel. And Dylan Gabriel was their 3rd-round pick. That just tells you what of a, kind of a joke it was that he fell as far as he did. Because, it came in and Dylan Gabriel played, half a game or a game, and they're like, we're going to Shedeur. You know what I mean? It was like they immediately went to him. So I still think it was an absolute travesty that he was a 5th-round pick. He should have went at least in the 3rd, and I honestly thought he should have been a late 1st-round quarterback in the draft last year. So I don't know. I could still be completely wrong. He could just bust out of the league here in 2 years. But you never know, man. Even if they don't keep him and he gets on another team in a decent situation, I could see it working out for him eventually. To me, he just has that Sam Darnold career arc. Now, granted, Sam Darnold was a 1st-rounder. Sanders wasn't, but he should have been, in my mind. So, and then Darnold, everybody was down out on him. Everybody's down and out on Baker. You know what they did? They finally got on a decent team when they're in their late 20s, and they're like, oh, these guys are decent quarterbacks. Yeah, they are. They've been playing for terrible teams, and they're super young, getting the crap kicked out of them. Of course they don't look very good. So, that immediate, we want these guys to be awesome, especially when they play for bad teams, just blows my mind.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a few years before they figure it out. Almost like a tight end a little bit. It might take some time for
absolutely.
Yeah, for some quarterbacks. So we're going to go right into it now. We're going to start off with the overvalued players, and I was going to go to Aidan here, but looks like Jorge said, the internet has banned Aidan, so he may not be coming back. He's working on it right now. He texted me, so we'll see if we get him back. So I was going to lead off with Aidan. So why don't we just go right to Justin Taylor here? Who do you got as an overvalued player in the NFC West, Justin?
And I know Aidan has all his stats that he was going to give you. So if he gets back, he can give you those. I actually agree with this guy, so I'm going to bring him up here.
Oh, perfect.
Zach Charbonnet, RB30. I totally agree with Aidan on this one. Charbonnet, man. I've never been a Charbonnet guy. I've always felt like he's just kind of got lucky enough with Kenny Walker injuries that is like giving him chances, and the fact that he's been totally held up by touchdowns in the red zone when he hasn't done anything the whole series, and all of a sudden they give it to him right at the end of the drive. So I just have never been a Charbonnet guy. Now he's coming off the injury. To me, that pushes him even farther down my rankings. As Aidan says, at RB30, there's just absolutely no way I'd be taking him there. So I don't know what your thoughts are on Sharps, but he's just not a guy I've ever really been trying to get. And again, another player I have on like so few teams. And if I have him on my team, it's either a team I took over or he fell so late that I eventually took him in a rookie draft. What do you think about him, Kyle?
I'm is it fair to say that I'm indifferent? Like, I don't totally hate his price, but I
feel like he isn't a different player, right? I feel like I feel like it's a great word to describe him. It's like, I guess I'm indifferent on Sharps. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, because Jadarian Price is the first round value is a lot, and he's going to be there. He's also younger. But Zach Charbonnet's a second round value. Like, it's not crazy, and he's already shown what he can do. And, down in the red zone, down on the goal line, like, I like him at running back 30, but it's not like, I guess I'm just not head over heels with him. So like, I don't hate it either. But I also am not like trying to get Charbonnet either at running back 30, if that makes any sense. I guess, like you said, that's the perfect way to describe it. I'm indifferent on him. He's 25 years old. That's kind of like, okay, he's got like maybe 3 or 4 years left at this kind of level. And Jadarian Price is so young. So I'm a little bit more intrigued with Jadarian Price, obviously, in a startup draft. But, you're the trade artist.
At 20. Yeah, Price is at 20, right? So you're going, all right, if Charbonnet wasn't coming off the injury, he was coming into this season, and he was ranked 30th as like the number one running back for Seattle, I'd be like, ooh, I might be intrigued by that price. But the fact that he's coming off the late injury, they're already talking about him. He's going to start on the pup for sure. He's going to easily miss the first 6 weeks. Who knows if it ends up being a couple more than that by the time he gets back and gets in shape? Could it be week 10 or something? So my biggest issue with the price for him is, 1, the major injury. 2, he's never just been the guy. It's always been him with Kenny Walker. And now Price, first round pick. That tells me Seattle's worried about him. Or you don't go and just, that seems like the luxury picks of all luxury picks, right? You win the Super Bowl and then you're taking a first round running back. So to me, that's what hurts the Sharps price for me. If he was coming in healthy with no first round talent, if he was like 25 to 28, I'd be like, or 25 to 30, I'd be like, I feel it seems like a really solid price for a starter. But it's right now for me, if Price comes out and has a big year, which he could, because this is a good Seattle team. It's different when you're a rookie and you go to these teams that are already loaded. If he ends up playing really well, I don't know if Sharp sees much action, once he comes back. They might be looking to move him or really ease him in if Price is crushing it.
So maybe if you're a Zach Charbonnet manager in Dynasty, you're obviously going to hold on to him right now. You're going to have to ride this thing out. Like you said, I should have mentioned that in the news and notes that he's on the pup list, but I knew we were going to talk about him later. But anyway, if you have Charbonnet and he's going to be on the pup list, you got to ride this out right now and then maybe sell the news, right? When he comes back, maybe week 5, week 6, sell him if you can right at the trade deadline, right? What do you think?
I think so. I think you're right. Right there, sell him around there. And also, if Price comes out and struggles a little bit, maybe you want to hit up that Jadarian Price owner. Be like, hey, what do you think about Sharps? Like, Bryce's struggle a little bit. He's not guaranteed to have this job when Sharps gets back. That's where I'd be looking, is to move into the Price owner. Price comes out and just comes out a little slow out of the gate for a rookie, and he doesn't just take over and like you go, oh yeah, it's his job for the rest of the year easily. If it's a little bit of a question mark and they're working some other veterans in, that's where I'd be looking to maybe move Sharps to one of those guys just to kind of give themselves a handcuff for Dynasty.
Yeah, that's a good call, JT. And get yourself a return on investment with Charbonnet. Kind of ride it out a little bit. That's probably the best advice that we can give if you are a Charbonnet manager. And we were talking about rankings, JT, and you got Price at 20, and you got I think Christian McCaffrey at running back 15. I think that's a little rich too for his age. I mean, I feel like I'm taking the easy road here by picking Christian McCaffrey overvalued at running back 15. But it is Christian McCaffrey, but man, his tread is just running low at age 30. I mean, where everyone not named Derrick Henry starts to decline, we all know how great McCaffrey is, but his value right now, it's like a used car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, you lose value immediately. So I would avoid Christian McCaffrey due to age alone. I mean, if you look at it right now with the amount of carries that he's getting, 2025, he had the second most carries in the league. 2024 was an injury-plagued season with that nightmare calf issue. We all remember that. 2023, he had the second most carries. And even in 2022, in the Carolina days before he went to San Francisco, that midseason trade, he still had the 9th most carries. So this guy's gotten a lot of work, getting to be age 30. I could totally be wrong on this too, JT, and McCaffrey could, next year get the most touches in the league. Nobody would be surprised by that. But at some point, the fall is going to come, and Father Time is undefeated, and you're going to be stuck holding that bag on McCaffrey. And I'm also going to say this. I'm not saying that it will happen, but I personally would not really be that surprised if Kyle Shanahan decides to maybe dial back some touches for this season and beyond. I mean, they could sign Deebo Samuel, who's out there. I could see a reunion with Deebo Samuel to get him some running back touches. I don't rule that out. I mean, nobody would be surprised if Deebo Samuel signed tomorrow with the Niners, right? Isaac Guerrero is...
I wouldn't. I mean, they need some other guys. I mean, right now, the big selling point, or I guess if you're a buyer or you're drafting, I shouldn't say sell, you're to sell him. But yes, the buying point or the drafting point for him is they have had so much turnover at wide receiver. And with the injury to Kittle, you're like, do they lean on him a little more than usual early in the year? Or do they go, okay, like, hey, man, we got to keep him around for a while. Like, we've got to tail it back. Now, they've drafted 3 straight years what you would think would be the handcuff running back for him, and no one's really won the job. They've got 3 guys in a row they've drafted, and unless you're like an insider, know somebody on the team, or a beat writer who's got a real inside track, I have not seen anything that makes me believe I have any idea who's going to actually be, the RB2 behind CMC. Yeah, now, the selling point, if you're going to sell our CMC right now, I still think there's a nice sell window. It's on a team, if you're in Dynasty, where you just looked at your team and you were going for it the last couple of years, and your team has just fallen on its face now, flat, or maybe you won it 2 years ago and then everybody started getting hurt last year. If you were like already looking at like, ooh, I don't think I can win, or I'm definitely in a rebuild mode, now I'm moving CMC, because there are teams that are in win now mode that will definitely pay up to get him. I'm in some leagues where I'm like, I've got a 2-year or 3-year window here where my team is right in their prime. Everybody's like 28, 29, 30, right in there. And I'm like, ooh, I can bust it here for the next 3 years with these guys if they stay healthy. That's a team where if they're in the prime, they might be willing to give up a late first or an early second, or maybe they go, man, this 27 class is really good. If you're a total rebound, well, what if I give you my first and second and 28? Or what if I give you like a second and 27, a second and 28, and maybe a third in one of those years? I think there's some room where you can make some adjustments. I don't think you have to go, I absolutely have to get a first or I'm not trading him. I think that depending on your league and the style, and obviously it's like any league, the owners in your league, I think he still can bring a first in certain circumstances. Other leagues, you're not going to be able to get that, especially with the 27 class. But I'm buying for that, to tell you the truth. I would easily give up if I could get it done for like a second and third, and I'm like a contending champ, or I like lost in the semis. I know they're going to be late picks, even though everybody loves this upcoming draft. I'm like, I want CMC for this year and next year. I would trade for him. That's just me. But I also am I'm one of the rare people. He's had like some weird like muscle injuries. It's not like where he's like constantly breaking an ankle or a shoulder, and you're just like, oh my God, the guy just can't take the hits. So I also believe even if he slows down and he's not the CMC we've seen throughout his career, I still think he could play with his style of play. He could easily play into his early 30s. I think you could get 2, 3, maybe 4 more years out of him. Maybe he doesn't get as many touches, but he's still going to be a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield, right? There's no reason he can't transition into a third down running back his final 2 or 3 years, a la Alvin Kamara, still on a team, still semi-productive, not a guy that you would be drafting early, but a guy that could still be good on your team. So I'm in a weird spot because I have a lot of CMC. He's just my man crush that. I loved him in college. I wanted the Colts to take him, and then he went and crushed the combine. And I was like, they're never getting him now. And obviously I think he ended up going like top 8 to the Panthers or something. And the Colts were like in the teens. And I remember when I was saying taking him in the teens, people were like, dude, you're crazy. I'm like, did you watch that guy play at Stanford? I'm like, he's on freaking real. And so I still really wish they would have got him. But if I'm a contender, I have no problem buying him. I know injuries are always a worry, but especially if you're any kind of like running back bonuses for receptions or like full PPR, any kind of like first down bonus points, CMC is still going to score a lot of points, man. He's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's going to get first downs. Maybe he doesn't have 1,500 yards rushing. He only has 1,000. But if he gets 1,000 yards rushing and still like 700 receiving yards, that's a kind of down year for CMC, but that's going to be a real good year for fantasy still. I mean, he's not going to single-handedly win you the league like he has in the past. I mean, there's been years where he's damn near single-handedly won your team the league. But I still think he's going to be productive. I mean, we've been talking about with Derrick Henry, a guy that you would never think would be going as long as his. And I paid 2 seconds for him last year. Best 2 seconds I ever traded away. He blew up with that monster game, and I won the championship in my home Dynasty league. That's a big, big money league. I was like, sell those 2 seconds any day of the week after that. So
and he's still paying
think there's value. Well, and now at Derrick Henry's value, you were either selling him for a second last year, or you were like, I'm writing this guy till he dies, basically. Yep. And I mean, dies in fantasy. But like at this point, I trade 2 seconds for him. I'll probably just play him until he doesn't play anymore. I feel like I've got the value now. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need a fourth for Derrick Henry. I'm just going to play Derrick Henry until Derrick Henry isn't in the league anymore.
Yeah, especially if you're in win now mode, which it sounds like you are with those guys. And your point to Christian McCaffrey is valid. I mean, even if he had 900 yards to 1,000, he could still pay off on a winning team. If you're in a win now mode, Christian McCaffrey is probably worth holding on to, as is Derrick Henry. And just to recap, Aidan was not here. He's not going to be able to make it tonight, but I'll go ahead and give his pick for his overvalued player. It was Zach Charbonnet at running back 30. JT agreed with Aidan, so that made it nice and easy for me as host to kind of wiggle around here. He also chose Zach Charbonnet at running back 30, and I went with Christian McCaffrey at running back 15. We're moving on now to the undervalued players, and I had a really nice conversation idea that I was going to have with Aidan, but unfortunately he's not here. But I'm still going to want to have this talk with maybe JT, also with the chat. Aidan was going to go with Kyren Williams as an undervalued player at running back 16, and I'm going with Blake Corum at running back 32. So chat, if you're listening, hanging out with us tonight, who would you rather have in Dynasty? Kyren Williams at running back 16 or Blake Corum at running back 32? Drop us the answer down in the chat. JT and I will we'll talk about it as well, but I'll give you my reasons if I can real quick on Blake Corum for running back 32 before I get to JT. And if you've been following any of my work, you already know that I love me some Blake Corum, and at running back 32 in Dynasty, I love the value here. But in all seriousness, It has nothing to do with Kyron Williams. You know, he's a great player. I still love him. He's a stud, but so is Blake Corum. And he hasn't quite broken out yet like Kyron Williams has. He's a handcuff, but he's also carries a little bit of standalone value, JT. You know, running back 32 is a little insane to me. Blake Corum is behind Chuba Hubbard in Dynasty ECR. Let me repeat that again so you can process that, JT. Blake Corum is behind Chuba Hubbard in Dynasty ECR. From week 13 on last season, Corum averaged over 10 carries per game, 67 rushing yards per game, and nearly 13 PPR fantasy points per game. How do you keep a guy like that off the field? I mean, his efficiency mirrors exactly what Kyron Williams was doing as well. From week 10 last season, he averaged 5.4 yards per carry. He tied Kyron in missed tackle force per attempt, 2.4 yards after contact per attempt. Again, equal to Kyron Williams. He's doing everything that Kyron does. He just doesn't get the volume yet. And the Rams gave Corum 55% of the carries inside the 5-yard line. And last I checked, they picked up Myles Garrett on defense, guys. And when the Rams are leading between 9 and 16 points heading into the fourth quarter, from week 10 on, Blake Corum ranked 4th in rushing attempts. He outcarried Kyron Williams 14-12 in that span. This defense should give the Rams a lot of leads in 2026 and beyond. And Blake Corum could be one of the biggest beneficiaries to that. Hey, welcome back, Jorge. How do you feel about that, JT?
Yeah, I think there's a really good value on Blake Corum. Yeah, I think Kyron Williams is probably where he needs to be. I think it's a good spot. But if you look at Corum, I really think he's the number one handcuff in the entire league. So to me, for him being ranked where he's at, and there's a couple starters in Dynasty, maybe not for 1 year redraft, but in Dynasty, I'd probably rather have Corum. Here's a good example. RJ Harvey is 27th on the list. Corum's 32. I'd rather have Blake Corum than RJ Harvey. They're the same freaking age. I know it's hard to believe because RJ Harvey only played 1 year so far, but they're the same age. They're both 25. I'd much rather have Blake Corum over RJ Harvey. I would rather have Blake Corum over Kyle Monungai, who's ahead of him. I'd rather have him over Zach Charbonnet, who's ahead of him. You already mentioned Chuba Hubbard. David Montgomery is one of my all-time favorite running backs. I love David Montgomery, but he's 26 at 29 years old. I think I'd probably, if I was looking to have a little more long-term, and then instead of a guy that I'm hoping hits 1 year for me or 2 years in Monty, I'd probably rather have Blake Corum than Monty as far as a longer term if I'm in a rebuild. So I agree with you. I feel like that's a pretty nice spot for him when you look at his age. You look at the fact that he already is getting carries. He's not a pure handcuff. He actually does get playing time. And the fact that him and Kyron Williams are the exact same age. And if Williams goes down, all of a sudden Blake Corum becomes a possible RB1 in any kind of format.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about, some of the going back into some of the metrics here, Kyle, that you were talking about earlier. You look at, Kyron Williams, he is dominating, goal line carries within the 5-yard line, rushing attempts like 53% to 38%, right? So, that obviously is going to favor Kyron's floor. But you look at the explosive run percentage and the explosive yards percentages, like this is all Blake Corum. Like this guy, he has a higher touchdown rate overall with those explosive plays versus Kyron Williams. They have comparable success rates versus the run, very low, stuffed run percentages. And what's really interesting here is when you look at the yards before contact per attempt, Blake Corum generates yards prior to getting hit. So his elusiveness, it's amazing. Like I said, his yards before contact per attempt is higher than Kyron Williams. So this guy is truly a playmaker. And what the coaching staff is saying this offseason, as far as we're going to give them 50-50 split, does that really happen? Or are we talking like some weeks 40-60, 60-40? Regardless, Kyron Williams, even, if we creep to that, area around 50%, like this is going to give huge upside. My only concern with Blake Corum, however, is now you have, I believe, what Cliff Kingsbury, former Commanders OC, is now going to be calling plays for, what does that do? Obviously, they're not going to have him they're not going to have Matthew Stafford run around like Jaden Daniels. They're going to still use some of the McVay system here, but I'm wondering how much that pace of play is going to either increase or decrease with Kingsbury helping out on the offensive side of the ball. So, does the increased pace of play help with sustaining drives? Does it take drives off the field? Like, would you rather have a slower play calling coordinator? I don't know, a lot of uncertainty there for this season, but long term, I agree with JT. I would rather have Blake Corum, like you were saying, with Kyle Monunga, with Charbonnet, Harvey, Warren, Hubbard. So yeah, definitely somebody who is undervalued.
First of all, welcome, Jorge. Thanks for coming in, and second, of course you're going to drop in, and somehow with me you find a way to mention Jaden Daniels.
So So we have 3 articles coming out at Fantasy and Frames for redraft purposes, and there are sleepers, breakouts, and busts. And shocking enough, Kyle in his bust article, little sneak peek, slandering the good name of Jaden Daniels continuously.
No, I commend you for coming on and helping us out. But actually, since we're on the Blake Corum topic, real quick before we move on, I want to get you guys' opinion. We'll go around the frames. I'll start with JT. Is there any merit to how I feel? Do you agree with it? Or am I looking too much into it with the Myles Garrett on the defensive side? Am I looking more into it for garbage time? Obviously, you don't want a running back just for garbage time, but is there something behind that, JT? With the good defense that the Rams have, and now you have Myles Garrett, Blake Corum's going to get the garbage stuff. Now, obviously, you don't want to draft a guy or have a guy for garbage only, but that's a little bonus, is it not?
Yeah, I think so. And Stafford's getting older. They want him to take less hits if they can, keep him healthy. He played phenomenal last year, so they want to keep him healthy more. I definitely see them leaning on the run a little more and going with those guys both, especially if they tend to be up in games in the second half. I definitely think if I'm looking at a guy like, ooh, how much time is he going to get? I want a guy that's on a good team that you expect to be running the ball in the fourth quarter, as opposed to going, well, this team is probably going to get smoked every week. So if he doesn't get like 10 first half carries, I'm in trouble. So, I think that does do a little bit to it.
How about you?
So what I really, to your point, yes, I believe this is going to be beneficial for, actually, if I had to pick a running back for the Rams, again, sticking with Blake Corum, I think this is one of the situations where, if they're up on a team, thanks to the defensive improvements, a la the Myles Garrett trade, like they're going to want to ice away games and like just basically, kill that clock, right? They don't have to throw it a bazillion times, but it's a great way to ice away games is give it to your explosive running back who can either help, get you another score as you're icing the game away, or help with the just helping with the other score, keeping up the pace of play, keep wearing out that defense. I don't know if you necessarily want a slower, less explosive running back. Like, yeah, you'll probably milk the clock that way, but something tells me Sean McVay is not the coach who's like, let's just be conservative. Let's be conservative now. Like, no, he's going to be an aggressive play caller and not put Matthew Stafford in harm's way, which means more opportunities for the more explosive running back.
So if you're just joining us tonight, we're going over our overvalued players and our undervalued players here in the NFC West. We are on the undervalued portion of the show, and JT is up next. He's got an undervalued player in the NFC West. And who you got, man?
I'm going to talk about 2 guys. I'm going to bring up the QB first, and I'm going to talk about a deep sleeper for me that I kind of like. So my first guy, it's kind of tough because you're like, hey, where would you rank him and what's going on? But I think Sam Darnold at QB 23 is undervalued here. Part of the reason is I've been in a couple startups and a couple dispersal drafts and a few other things, and he is just going behind a lot of other guys. Now, I understand he's 29, so he's not a young pup, but he also hasn't played a lot of full seasons in the NFL, and he came into the league really young. So you finally have him on a good team, a good defense, which has had a good running game. I'm just not understanding with the last 2 years that Darnold's put together how it's like people are looking at him. I can understand after the Minnesota year going, ooh, can he do that 2 years in a row? But he did it 2 years in a row. But now it's like people are like, oh, there's no way he's doing it 3 years in a row. I'm like, really? He's on a team. He's on a Super Bowl winning team. Like, why can't he do it 3 years in a row? The interceptions were up a hair last year, and the touchdowns were down, so that hurt him. He went from 35 touchdowns in Minnesota to 25. But also, you got to look at this. He still went over 4,000 yards passing. His yards per attempt actually went up from 7.9 to 8.5, which was the highest in his career. His sacks went way down. He went from 48 to 27 on sacks. And he also did all this throwing the ball 80 less times. So he was last 2 years, QB 9 and QB 13 finish. Him going QB 23 for a guy that seems like a pretty young 29-year-old, I'm just not understand the hate. He just seems for one of the starting quarterbacks on one of the better teams who actually has some stud wide receivers. It's just a little surprising to me how low he is being valued, how low he's going.
All right, guys, I'm going to run out. Aidan apparently the gods have been kind to him, so you got your co-host back. So I will see you guys later. Take care.
All right, thanks, Jorge. Boss Man was gracious enough to come in when he was expected to be off, and Aidan, you look better now. You look good. Everything seems to be going, and I didn't even get a chance to introduce you, but we're just rolling through here, and we might as well let us hear what you have to say about Kyren Williams as a undervalued player at running back 16. Because I went, I don't know if you heard it or not, but
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
Before you jump into that with Kyle Williams, I know he missed his segment on Charbonnet, but we have been here in the comments. So I'm going to bring these up real quick and let Aidan jump back in and why he thinks Charbonnet at 30 is over. Yeah. Ben says, coincidentally, since you guys are talking the West tonight, heard Sharps didn't actually have surgery for a month after his injury, what puts 9-month timeline, puts him into late November. So that's the first part, which we were just kind of talking about how long he'd be out. He said Matt Waldman saying on the podcast that Arizona Marvin Harrison Jr. will be in more of a Devontae Adams role, type with Wilson. Who will be more in that Puka role for that as far as the West side. We haven't talked about any Arizona guys yet tonight, so slightly different routes and volume there. But Aidan, is that part of the reason why you think Charbonnet is really overrated at RB30?
Yeah, just the basics, JT. The comments just touched on it a little from everybody. He suffered a mid-January ACL tear, and then for some reason he waited a month and underwent a mid-February surgery for that ACL tear. So in my estimation, we're not going to see him until late November / early December at the earliest. Who knows? They can put him on the shelf until the real NFL playoffs, but for Charbonnet's outlook, he'll be a free agent next summer, next March, and everyone's like, okay, clearly he's going to be re-signed. Kenneth Walker's finally gone. Not really. They drafted Jadarian Price, 32nd overall, their last pick of the first round, to assumably be their RB1 of the future. I think Price has a bell cow build and a bell cow mold. I don't think Charbonnet has a bell cow build and a bell cow mold. He was splitting with Walker just like Walker was splitting with him. Amongst 49 qualifying RBs here real quickly, because I know I just jumped back in quickly. 37th in yards per carry. This is our last season. 37th in yards per carry. 37 in rushing success rate. So inefficient and not gaining many yardage about half the time. And then 47th in yards before contact per attempt. So not very an elusive / athletic back at the very least either. So I don't like Charbonnet's outlook just like many other people, whether it's the injury, whether it's next year's crop of free agent RBs being very loaded. I feel like Charbonnet could be buried in that respect. JT, I know I wasn't on, but Kyle said you were talking about him. I know you've said this in the past that you're not a Charbonnet guy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I kind of jumped in and hammered some of your points, but yeah, I think for all the reasons I said, hey, maybe RB30 if he was coming in this year healthy and no Jadarian Price first round pick, but with the pick and that, if I'm Seattle, I don't even know if I try to bring him back, if it's going to be late November, early December, depending on how he looks, if he's going to be a free agent, I mean, maybe they bring back, play him a little bit. I guess if he's an unrestricted free agent, then it doesn't matter for them as far as what they can get back for him or anything. But it just seems like they wouldn't be pushing a guy like that. To me, he feels like if they're a contender, which they should be, you would think, unless something crazy happens, they should be in the mix again. So you think, hey, we're just going to work him in slowly, get him a few carries here and there. And again, that's just one season. So, I mean, I'm completely out in redraft. But for Dynasty, I'm like, do you want to invest in a guy where you're not sure who's going to be next year and who's going to be in front of him, all that other stuff? And especially for me, a guy that I already don't love that much. And he just seems like a destined to be RB2 no matter what the rest of his career. So, I'd much rather have a guy like a Rico Dowell or a Kyle Manung guy or Blake Corum. I'd take any of those guys in a heartbeat over Zach Charbonnet in Dynasty.
I would as well.
I was a little indifferent on him, Aidan. I'm not like in love with it, and I'm also not like hating it as well. I'm just kind of like, if he's there and I get some value, all right.
Doesn't excite you though.
Yeah, I don't target him at running back 30, but if he fell to like maybe 35, 36, and I need a running back. But now with this whole like being on the PUP list, it does kind of scare me a little bit. You know, like he's definitely going to be out 4 games now, and it's going to be a slow start too, I think now. It just kind of tells me that he's not ready. He's not ready yet, you know, and that's okay. But I think 2026 is going to be more of a half season for Charbonnet.
If that, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle, do you want me to throw in my my other guy to go along with Sam Darnold before we let Aidan kind of ramp up why he's out on Kyren Williams before we end this thing?
Yeah, shoot me.
Okay, so my guy that I like, he got injured last year. He was a little banged up in college, the end of college, had a pretty good combine coming off an injury. I just still really like him as a guy you can put on the end of your bench, or if you have a taxi squad that you can hold guys for the first 2 years. Torrey Horton is my guy. Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Dude, big body guy, really good speed. We've seen Cooper Kupp start to take the drop, right? He took a pretty big drop last year. We know what Shaheed is, right? He's like your just go deep guy and kind of your trick guy. He's a nice player to have on your team, but is he a clear-cut wide receiver 2 behind JSN? I don't know. I like Shaheed in big play in best ball leagues, but if Horton can stay healthy, I think he starts infringing in that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 role. Right now, he is just an absolutely unbelievable value because he didn't play a ton last year before he got banged up. He was a little banged up in college. So he was a guy in Devy circles 3 years ago people were hyped on. People were hyped on him. And then the injuries and everything else happened. They kind of got low on him. He's a guy that I could still see breaking out. Because there's not just clear-cut guys that are way better than him and way more talented than him in front of him. So that's my guy. If you're looking for a sleeper, a guy that maybe is on the waiver wire, or someone you could just throw into a trade if somebody else has got him, and you'd be like, hey, you know what? What do you think about throwing Torrey Horton in the end of that deal with 4 or 5 players in the mix? That's a guy I'm liking. He is a little bit of a long shot, but I think he's worth taking a shot on because I don't think it will take hardly anything to acquire him, especially in the 27 draft where people are so pumped. They're looking for any pick they can get. I think you could get him for a pretty late pick, but I love the upside for him to go along with and the fact that he is, I think, wide receiver 76. I think it is. I think he's wide receiver 76 right now. So, I mean, he's way down the list. So I think he's a guy that is worth taking a shot on and maybe stashing. And again, if he ends up not coming back, he doesn't hit, you're not going to have to spend much to get him. He's likely, unless you're in a deep league, he's probably out there in the waiver wire, and you probably could go snag him up for a couple bucks on a blind bid.
Real quick, JT, before I get to Aidan, this is a quick over-under on Shaheed. That's what you said, right? Shaheed. Over-under 60 catches, 700 yards.
Ooh.
For Horton, because that's what Shaheed did. Yeah, for Horton, because Shaheed did this for Seattle last year.
Yeah, so I think Horton could cut into those numbers, and I think he could really cut into Cooper Kupp's numbers. I think Cooper could, if Horton gets healthy, I could see Cooper being the wide receiver 4 on this team and just getting in there in certain places. Horton is just a bigger guy, 6'4", 210. He ran a 4.42 or 4.38 at the combine, and that was coming off an injury. So he could run faster possibly. I think if he gets healthy, I think he would just be that perfect X to add to JSN. You know what I mean? You got JSN moving around, playing him, getting the ball wherever you want. I think he could be your big-bodied wide receiver. That's why I like Horton. I just think he has that big XP. He can go deep. He can run your deep comeback routes. He can run your posts. That's why I think that's. Well, I'd probably say under this year, but I think he definitely could hit 50 catches, 500 yards, and a couple TDs for this season. And if he does that this year, I think I think he solidifies himself in that role and just keeps moving forward.
I like that. And Aidan, real quick, take us home. You've got Kyren Williams at running back 16 as an undervalue. Tell us why.
Okay, first, I assume you already talked about Blake Corum already?
Of course.
Okay, so this is a pretty big name, right? Kyle and JT, but I still feel that he's undervalued by a few spots. At RB16, once again, Kyren Williams. We talk about commitment from the Rams for dynasty purposes. He got that. Kyren just got a big 3-year extension / deal last offseason, last summer, whatever you want to call it. So he's locked in for.
It doesn't look like it was meant to be for Aidan tonight. I think he froze on our end.
Sometimes those nights it just happen where you just the internet just does not want to work for you. It's that's definitely freaking brutal. I've had those nights many a time.
Anyway, since Aidan doesn't look like he's going to make it back, I'll just do a quick recap to get us all out of here. I took Blake Corum at running back 32. Aidan did have Kyren Williams at running back 16 as an undervalue. And JT, of course, took Torrey Horton as a big-time sleeper, as an undervalued player for 2026 and beyond. Before we get out of here, though, if you enjoyed tonight's show, hit that bell icon for us. Subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames channel. Head over to thefantasyandframes.com. You know, we've got Dynasty and redraft rankings up there, articles, premium content as well for $4.99 a month. Don't forget to stick around for Shoot the Gap. JT is going to be back for our IDP show at 9 p.m. Eastern, followed by Fourth and Frames at 10 p.m. Eastern with myself. JT is coming back for that as well. And Nate Markham. Keep it locked right here on the Fantasy and Frames Network. For JT, for Jorge, for Aidan, I'm Kyle. See you next week.